Well, Kevin Durant and his latest failed attempt at building an NBA super team, a pathetic tactic to stack a couple of cheap rings, has once again exploded in his face in the form of a humiliating sweep at the hands of the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first round. And the only thing worse than getting the broom treatment is getting it in the first round of the playoffs without accruing a single postseason win, and it comes at the hands of a Minnesota team that the Suns allegedly owned based on the strength of a clean 3-0 head-to-head record against the Wolves in the regular season. But the Suns didn't just beat the Timberwolves in all three of their regular season meetings this season, they absolutely destroyed them in all three, with the closest game of the three being a 10-point final margin, with the total differential for the season series sitting at 47 points. But that trend would reverse completely in this first-round matchup as Minnesota swept the Suns, blowing them to pieces in all four games, with the total margin of differential in this playoff series sitting at a whopping 60 points in the sweep. And for those of you mathematically challenged individuals out there in YouTube land, that is an average of 15 points per game. Yeah, what I'm saying is this series was not remotely close. And that is despite Durant, who will be making an All-NBA team selection this season, having Devin Booker, who will not be making an All-NBA team selection this season, performing pretty well for a sidekick during this series, as Booker averaged 27.5 points per game and 6 assists on 49% shooting during this failed little postseason experiment. Now, to be fair, a large part of his damage did come last night in the elimination game, as the Suns were desperately trying to stave off elimination at home in Phoenix, and Booker dropped 49. Still though, not enough help for KD to get a single win in this series, as the young Timberwolves completely upstaged the Suns. The Wolves, led by an absolute transcendent young superstar in Anthony Edwards, who has shown up in a major way and announced his presence to the basketball world this postseason. Just one of the few young studs that look to rip this league from the old guard, set to age out once and for all. As Steph Curry didn't even make the playoffs, Durant now bows out without winning a single game, and while the outlook isn't as bleak for LeBron as it was a few days ago, he is still down 3-1 in his first round series. But for Durant, this latest disappointment puts a bow on his 17th NBA season, which is really 16 if we're being fair, as KD did lose an entire season while rehabbing his Achilles rupture. But with his 2024 season officially in the books, yet another year passes by without a championship for Durant. Almost impossible to believe. A player with his requisite skill set has won just 2 titles in his 17 years in the NBA, and it is even more unbelievable when you realize who he has played with. As Durant started his career off with Russell Westbrook and James Harden in Oklahoma City. Then, of course, famously went all-out snake mode and slithered his way to Golden State to join a Warriors team coming off of a 73-win season prior. Then it would be some more seedy, underhanded collusion-type tactics, teaming with Kyrie Irving to handpick what team they would be joining together in free agency, while little game James Harden would hit his local buffet and eat his way out of Houston to join the duo in Brooklyn. And that trio would constitute perhaps the biggest failed super team swing in NBA history, with KD eventually demanding his own trade to Phoenix. And this past offseason, the Suns would acquire Bradley Beal to team with Durant and Booker to amass a backcourt that looked outright unstoppable, and owner Matt Ishbia has paid handsomely to bring this threesome together. Ishbia now on the hook for a whopping nearly $300 million this year when factoring in salaries and taxes. The Suns, meanwhile, have practically no space at all for any kind of impactful additions or changes to this roster in the upcoming offseason. Because, yeah, they're still on the hook for the next 3 years and $161 million that is owed to Bradley Beal. And they do not have a first-round pick in their stable of picks until 2031. So now, Durant, who turns 36 in September in advance of the 2024-2025 NBA season, has to consider if it's time to be demanding another trade or if he will ride it out with this core who is incapable of winning a single playoff game. And regardless of whatever direction Durant might be leaning in on that front, the writing appears to be firmly imprinted on the wall at this time. Durant's window for competing for championships has reached an end. And when you look back at the vast expanse of his hollow playoff resume, it begs the question of just how long and how relevant of a run he actually ever had in the first place.